Hey guys, I wanted to introduce my husband, Grant, to my channel because he's actually a bigger reader than I am. Always has been. Always. And a lot of people that I'm friends with on Booktube are reading the Wheel of Time series right now, just started it, and it got me thinking about him because it's your favorite series, one of your favorite series.
One of my all-time favorites.
Right. So he's grown up reading fantasy and science fiction, mostly. Right? And that series, he just loves it. And he's read it how many times?
From beginning to end now, 3.
Three. Oh, wow. So yeah, I read the first book like 2 years ago, but I'm not into fantasy.
No.
I did read it.
No, you're just not into fantasy.
Yeah, I'm not into fantasy. No. So I thought I would introduce him and maybe have videos, like some videos sometimes with him in it, because he literally does read so much more than I do, and he might have some good input. So besides Wheel of Time, what else would you say are your favorite fantasy books or series?
Fantasy or sci-fi fantasy?
Let's start with fantasy.
That's a huge list. Perhaps has to always be one of my favorite is the very first set of fantasy books I ever read was Dragonlance. So the Dragonlance is intended to be your, epic.
Is that Anne McCaffrey?
It was not. I believe it's Tracy Weiss and
Margaret Weiss Hickman?
Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
We'll go with that.
I know stuff.
You know stuff, just a little. More than I do.
Yeah. Dragons of Pern, that's what I'm thinking of. Anne McCaffrey.
Anne McCaffrey is Dragons of Pern. It's another absolutely epic set of books. But, the thing about the Dragonlance Chronicles, it was... it introduced a lot of the concepts to me that I find as themes throughout so many other books now.
Yeah.
And so I find that so many times I trace them back to their original roots.
Are you constantly comparing books to those?
Always.
Because I compare everything.
I do, and it's they gave you the concept of good dragons and bad dragons, and what makes good and what makes bad, and you get to ride a dragon, which is cool.
Are there dragons in the Wheel of Time?
Dragons in the Wheel of Time? No. Not in the traditional sense of dragons. My favorite thing about the Wheel of Time is they gives a sense of massive continuity and the endless turning of time. And then there's the fact that women in the book are unabashedly badass. And I love that.
Yeah, I have a hard time with fantasy with the magic and the dragons.
Yes.
Because to me it doesn't seem real. Yeah. But I like watching it. So, how many books would you guess you've read in your lifetime?
Thousands.
Thousands.
Easily. Since
we've been together. He really is the biggest reader I've ever known in my life. That's how he would spend all of his free time.
That's the reason I could live as a hermit on an island practically. As long as I got some books, give me a Wi-Fi access and a Kindle reader.
Yeah, he reads a lot on his phone. He always has a book going on his phone. He listens to books. He has tons of real books. He has 3 bookcases in the house?
That are mine. That
are just his, with just his books on it. And then there's just boxes of books.
Spellmonger.
Everywhere. Okay, I remember that name. Spellmonger, yeah.
Yeah, that one's currently has my favorite.
Magic system?
Yeah. It's based on the concept of, around our planet we have a magnetosphere, right? The planet has a magnetic field around it, just like a gigantic magnet.
Yeah.
And that magnetic field does all kinds of interesting things. And so the concept is there's another field around this planet that's very similar, but it allows us to control things at a quantum level. And creatures that are, when you're there, you become influenced, just like creatures on this planet are influenced by the magnetic field around the planet.
Yeah.
If you're living on this planet, you're influenced by this field. You become in tune with it, and you can do things.
Like Avatar, the cartoon?
In the similar way the Avatar channels elemental energy.
Yeah.
Right? But they're basically, the concept behind the issue with magic is where does all the energy come to do these great things? And the answer in Terry Mancourt's book is that there is an energy field around the planet that is just a characteristic of that planet that you can tap into that is energy, that you can do things. So is this
fantasy or sci-fi?
Well, it's entirely fantasy until you begin to realize that the humans on the planet got there in a spaceship, hundreds of years earlier.
Ah, okay.
And then there's suddenly this connection between, science and magic that makes sense and is balanced.
Oh. Yeah, I like Avatar, the cartoon.
It's neat.
But I think if I picked up that book and read the flap, I wouldn't be interested.
Terry Mancourt's book?
Yeah.
Agreed. You probably wouldn't like it. No. It is truly a fantasy book. And there's other things that he does that are really exceptional.
Is Harry Potter fantasy?
Absolutely.
Then I like Harry Potter.
Oh, I love Harry Potter.
I just don't read.
It's not your bag, baby.
Yeah, I don't gravitate to fantasy or sci-fi books, but I'm trying to get into sci-fi.
Just a little.
Yeah, starting, and he's helping me. And so I would like to add him to some of my videos because he has so much knowledge on these books. What?
You're starting fantasy books or science fiction books?
No, science fiction. But just talking in general, because a lot of people that watch my videos read fantasy. I watch a lot of people who only read fantasy just because I like those people.
Right.
Even though I'm not reading the books they're reading, I just like the people. So I'd like to start adding you to, every now and then, a sprinkle of Grant.
Just a little.
Yeah.
A little goes a long way.
Yeah. Just to, get your thoughts on stuff.
Sure.
Because I think you're interesting. So, but yeah, I don't want these to be too long, but I wanted to introduce Grant, the reader in the house. So I thought, why not introduce him to Booktube since he is such a reader? And since I'm trying to get into sci-fi and I want to ask his opinions on stuff because he reads a ton of sci-fi too.
True story.
Yeah. I thought I would just have him get on and say hi and talk a little bit about, start with fantasy because everybody's reading the Wheel of Time thing. So I thought I would start there. So. Yeah. Wheel of Time.
Wheel of Time.
Are you going to reread that anytime in your life?
If you start that book, I'll read that book with you. Those books with you.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. Although they're coming out with a TV show. Did you see that?
Yeah.
You're not excited for the TV show?
Unless they so the only book I can remember that really was exceptionally well that's not true. The Harry Potter series.
Yeah.
Right. Just extraordinary transition to the big screen. And Lord of the Rings, another really exceptional. I'm concerned it's not going to get the due. They did Outlander really well. Okay, I'll buy that. I'm a huge fan of the books and the TV show. And they're coming out with Good Omens, the TV show based off the book. That's coming out in May. Well, they did. Can't wait for that. They did. What is the Witcher? No, they're coming out with that too. Yeah, that would be easier. No, I'm having a brain fart here. The book series where they kill everyone. Game of Thrones. Yes, they did Game of Thrones extremely well. Well, they might do this one good. So they did Game of Thrones really well. So that's 3 that I can think of, and you've got Outlanders 4. So if they do a really good job of it in bringing it together, that's great. I'll watch it. I'll watch the show with you, but I'm not. Yeah. Well, you like the Shannara. I like the Shannara Chronicles. Is that what it was called? I like the show. I didn't read the books. No. But again, it's the names. It's too confusing for me to read. But if I can see it and put a face to the name, it makes it a lot easier for me. So I'll watch the show, but I probably won't ever read the books. You don't want to reread? No. There's a lot of people that I'm friends with that are all talking about it. That's the big thing right now. And I'm like, no. Yeah. Happy? Sure. Okay. All right. We're going to get off of here. And I'll bring him back later. later.
Unless everybody hates him, then he'll never be seen again.
It's a distinct possibility.
All right, guys. We're going to go, and I'll see y'all later. Bye.